everybody, and welcome to the weekly scopes from the 10th to the 16th of August. Hi everybody, and welcome to this week's weekly scopes. If you've heard this before, you can skip, but this is just the intro on how I formulate these astrology weekly readings. I use astrology and my intuition to give you advice how you can practically use the knowledge of the stars and the planets and apply them to your life. So my weekly scopes are all based on GMT time and on Vedic Constellational Astrology. So now I'm just going to explain what Vedic Constellational Astrology is and how it differs from Western astrology. So the precession of the equinox is sort of like something that happens in astronomy and astrology, where the Earth's axis undergoes a slow circular motion over 26,000 years, and basically this means that this motion causes a shift in the position of the equinoxes, and also the calculation Vedic and Western astrologies use. So around 2,000 years ago, the tropical and sidereal Vedic astrology signs of astrology were aligned in the same position. So if the sun was in Scorpio in Vedic astrology, it was also in the constellation of Scorpio in Western astrology. But because of the precession of the equinoxes, this has caused a gradual westward sort of like drift of the tropical Western signs. So basically these signs and the Western signs shift 1 degree with every 72 years. So as a result of this ongoing shift, when Western astrology says the sun is in the constellation of Pisces, it's typically in the constellation of Aquarius. Still, this is because the degree, orb and the date for Western and Vedic astrology are 24 degrees, 24 days apart. So in Western astrology, the sun enters the constellation of Pisces around the 19th of February each year, but actually the sun doesn't arrive into the constellation of Pisces until the 13th to the 15th of March each year. And Vedic astrology takes this into account because it's based on the fixed star positions, and Vedic astrologers use sidereal calculations. So as a result, Vedic astrology takes into account the actual positions of the constellations in the sky at any given time, and also considers the precession of the equinox, adjusting for the shift in the position of the equinoxes over time. But in terms of Western astrology follows the tropical zodiac, which is based on the seasons rather than fixed star positions. Western astrologers also do not directly account for the precession of the equinox in their calculations as well, so this results in slightly different calculations and interpretations that are given whether we're using Western astrology or Vedic astrology. So yeah, as I said, Western astrology uses specific dates. So every year, regardless of where the sun actually is at the sky, the sun moves into Pisces around the 19th of February. So yeah, this discrepancy, this misalignment between the tropical zodiac and the actual positions of the constellations has led to a discrepancy between Vedic astrology and Western astrology. So I consider the actual where the sun and the moon are and where Mars and Venus are at any given time, and this is how I formulate these sort of like weekly scopes. So yeah, thanks for listening to this, and let's dive into this week's weekly scope. Okay, so now I'm just going to explain what parallels and contra-parallels are in astrology, because I use them in my chart interpretation. So declination in astrology is the measure of how far a celestial body is, such as the sun, whether it's either north or south of the celestial equator. And the celestial equator is an imaginary line in the sky above the Earth's equator, which us astrologers use in our interpretation. So parallels happen when two planets are on the same declination, either both planets are on the north side or either both planets are on the south side, and this alignment increases the influence of the involved planets. So it's similar to a conjunction aspect, as it amplifies their energy, making the effects of the planets more pronounced. Contraparallels, on the other hand, happen when two planets are on the same declination, but one is in the north and one is in the south. So this alignment creates tension, which is similar to an opposition aspect, and it can lead to conflict, challenges and inner struggles between the energies of the planets involved. So contraparallels highlight areas of friction or contrast in our lives, urging us to find balance between the opposing forces at play. When transiting parallels and contraparallels happen, they can sort of like trigger significant events, shifting consciousness and periods of intense growth and transformation. So I look at these aspects closely during chart analysis to understand how planetary energies interact and influence each other during a specific time frame, to pinpoint key periods for personal development, relationship dynamics or career shifts and other shifts like karmic shifts and stuff like that. Because I just find using contraparallels and parallels gives me more depth in interpretation, so I use them. So contraparallels and parallels in astrology serve as markers for potential challenges or breakthroughs, guiding us towards more self-awareness, love, acceptance, understanding, forgiveness for ourselves and others, and shifts in consciousness and growth. So overall, just a shift in our mindset if we allow for it. So parallels and contraparallels just kind of like provide valuable insights into the complexities and nuances of the astrological interactions between planetary movements. So yeah, that's the end of what contraparallels and parallels are. So this week we've got 4 aspects influencing us. So the first is Mars making a parallel to Neptune, and this entered on the 2nd of August, is exact at 10:31 p.m. on the 10th of August, and leaves us on the 18th of August, and Mars is in Virgo and Neptune is in Pisces. Saturn makes a sextile to Uranus, and this entered on the 27th of July, is exact on the 12th of August and leaves us on the 26th of August. And then we've got Mercury making a sextile to Mars, and Mercury's in Cancer. This entered on the 12th of August, is exact at 3:04 a.m. on the 15th of August, also exact again on the 18th of August at 6:32 a.m. before finally leaving us on the 21st of August. So the last 2 aspects are lasting us right up until next week. All of them are influencing us right up until next week. And Mars is parallel to Saturn, and Saturn's sextile to Uranus are going into the following week, so lasting us the best part of near enough, over 2 weeks. So yeah, anyway, Mars makes a parallel to Saturn, and this entered on the 7th of August, is exact at 10:07 p.m. on the 15th of August, and Saturn's in Pisces. So now I'm just going to be doing a summary of the most significant aspects of the week before I talk about the main aspects that are influencing us this week in more depth. So as I said, Mars makes a parallel to Neptune, and this brings a mix of focused action with spiritual intuition, allowing practical plans to be guided by deeper inspiration. Mars makes a trine to Pluto, so this adds transformative power to the week and focused determination, you know, helping us to sort of like channel this intense energy into productive change, the change we need to make, right? The sun's quincunx to the moon's north node on the 10th of August allows us to change our current path, so change our lifestyle, continue to do that so that we can align more with our soul purpose and balance our personal identity with what's needed for future growth. So making the changes at the psychological, emotional and spiritual levels that need to be made, right? Mercury goes direct out of retrograde in Cancer, so this allows slowly, because it's still in its it's going to be in its post retrograde shadow still for at least the next 3 to 4 weeks, if not more. But slowly the mental fog that Mercury retrograde brings starts to lift, and our projects that may have been stuck can move forward. But for those born when Mercury retrograde happens, then when Mercury's direct, which is like most of the year, that may be like your retrograde period. But the moon's north node goes direct out of retrograde on the 11th of August. So again, it makes it easier for us to take decisive steps towards our destiny, our life purpose. Saturn sextile to Uranus allows us to be open to new ideas and mix it with tradition, mixing our comfort zone with newness, allowing for structured progress forward and practical breakthroughs that don't destabilize us. If anything, we're given the chance to stabilize, to balance ourselves. Venus makes a conjunction to Jupiter on the 12th of August, and this increases our capacity for love, empathy, compassion, abundance and socializing with others, allowing us to feel happiness, right, and grow, and also brings opportunity to repair any problems in relationships as well. Venus makes a semi-square to Uranus on the 14th of August, so this brings tension to our week overall, especially between our need for comfort one again and our need for change in relationships. It can trigger unexpected developments that challenge the status quo, tradition, right? And Mercury sextile to Mars on the 15th of August just allows us to be more strategic in our thinking, more sharper on the ball, quick wit, quick responses to questions and solutions to problems, right? And allowing us to make our ideas, our thoughts into practical action. So basically doing what we say and meaning what we say, something like that anyway. Mars's power to Saturn brings motivation with discipline, and so this is good for long-term sustained effort and hard work towards our goals, right, that require persistence. So just giving us that push to keep on going, building on our success, or starting to build on our success, right? Venus is trine to the moon's north node on the 16th of August, again allows us to align our relationship with our soul's purpose. So some of you may let go of relationships, or we can have breakthroughs in relationships where we may have been having conflict for a while, And the sun also enters Leo on the 16th of August, so it allows us as a collective to focus more on creative self-expression, have more confidence and lead from the heart, so compassionate leadership, a good energy to use for that, right? So now I'm just going to talk about the holistic effects of the main aspects that are influencing us all this week and right into next week. Mars is power to Neptune, Saturn sextile to Uranus, Mercury sextile Mars, and Mars power Saturn. So positively, as I said, these aspects help us improve our intuition and spiritual focus. It allows us to be stable while getting outside of our comfort zone and starting new things, allowing us to have creative breakthroughs while maintaining stability, and have mental agility, flexibility, sharpens our wit and strategic thinking, and it allows us to have discipline and action, be disciplined in our action and ambition and our goals. It boosts increases our focus and determination. But negatively, Mars and Neptune energy can make us confused and lack direction. Saturn Uranus can bring resistance to change. We may not want to get outside of our comfort zone, we may hesitate to do that and be open to new ideas, and we just may be more hasty and impulsive in our communication because of Mercury and Mars energy this week. So we have to, count to 10, walk away if need be, give people grace if they lose their temper, but don't allow anyone to overstep your boundaries and don't overstep other people's boundaries. And we can just experience burnout this week because we've got a lot of energy, especially Mars and Saturn, bringing intense pressure to take responsibility and to make forward progress, so just watch out for that. The best use of this week's energies is to use the Mars Saturn influence for meditation and creative expression, Saturn Uranus to make long-term visionary, futuristic goals and planning. Be strategic in your communication, to have clear, impactful conversations, and also be disciplined and do the things you really need to do rather than scatter all this energy. This week's energy can really make us have breakthroughs, so we must make a plan. To-do list is your best friend over the next couple of weeks. On the psychological level, it brings motivation and purpose to us. It reveals areas where we may feel stuck or overburdened, and it allows us to reflect on where we need to release pressure. We can feel inspired to think outside of the box, but we may also have increased feelings of fear of change, and stick rigidly to our comfort zone. So, just take baby steps. Don't compare yourself to someone else's journey. Someone else is maybe making 10, 15 moves at a time, but you maybe only to do one or two. Remember, your journey is unique, and the only person you need to be better than is who you were before, right? And again, we just need to watch out for being impulsive and harsh and using words that increase or cause conflict. Yes, use this energy of Mercury Mars to be assertive, but also be mindful, as I said before. In terms of our relationships, it encourages teamwork and mutual respect. This week's energies allowed us to increase our emotional intelligence, and Mars's Saturn energy emphasizes the importance of accountability in partnerships and relationships, right? And you can be sort of like, we can get defensive when we have to take accountability, right? But often, it's the things that may feel painful at first that can be the best, especially when it comes to growing through your comfort zone, right? In terms of the karmic and spiritual meanings, this week aspects allows us to balance spirituality and action. The Mars Neptune influence teaches us to integrate intuition with practical rational thinking. It allows us to be open to change. Saturn's Uranus influence wants us to think about the ways that we may have resisted change in the past and newness, and reminds us that now is the time to adapt and evolve and to change, right? And ultimately this week we just have to remember that words and our actions can have impact, so we need to be mindful of how we express ourselves. In terms of our spiritual growth, Mars Neptune energy reminds us this week to have faith in the journey and not just focus on the destination, even when we feel uncertain. It invites us to be open to progress. We're honouring our tradition, our comfort zone, our culture, our religions, whatever, but also being open to new ways of thinking and being in this world. It encourages us to commit to our goals with patience and persistence, and have a sort of disciplined focus this week. In terms of the mythological and esoteric meanings, we want to, as I said, mix taking action and being spiritual and coming from a higher place, letting our inner warrior meet our inner mystic and balancing that energy. Saturn Uranus shows us that, at times it can be hard to find the balance between structure and taking new action, but it's something that we need to do if we want to grow. And Mercury Mars energy embodies the union of thought and action, our masculine and our feminine sides, and the side of us that want to do and the side of us that just wants to relax and chill out, right? And this week is a big lesson of the journey from impulsiveness to discipline, mastery, especially over ourselves, because that's the only thing we can ever try and master. Can't master other people or anything in the world, but we can master our own emotions and responses and thought processes and behaviours as well. So So my mantras and guidance for this week are based on the majority of energies that you have in your natal chart. So some of you may have natal charts that are dominant in more than one energy. You may have your rising sign, your sun sign, and your moon sign all in different energies. You may have aspects to different planets. So ultimately this could mean you have some planets that are in fire, some in water signs, some in earth signs. So for example, if you have most of your planets in Aries, Scorpio and Capricorn, read the mantras for all of these signs. And if you have all your planets mostly in Taurus, read the mantra for Taurus, but you may also want to read for Libra because Venus rules Taurus and Libra, right? So yeah. So Aries, this week your growth opportunity comes from focusing on long-term goals, but your challenge comes through impatient. And your strategy is to, if you're willing to plan, slow down, you can make great moves forward because the Mars-Pluto trine supercharges your ambition, making this an excellent week to go after challenging goals with renewed energy. Balance this intensity with the spiritual influence of Mars, Neptune energy, right? Which reminds us that not everything requires force. Sometimes intuition and flow and chilling out can get you further than pushing, working with their challenges this week rather than pushing against them. Taurus, your growth opportunity comes when you're open to change, especially when it comes to your financial stability, but your challenge comes this week through stubbornness. Your strategy, the best way forward for you is to stay open to new opportunities. The Saturn Uranus sextile helps you make changes within your comfort zone, allowing you to be open to change on your own terms. Venus conjunct Jupiter brings abundant opportunities for pleasure and financial growth, but be selective about which doors you choose to walk through. Gemini, your growth opportunity comes this week when you sharpen your communication skills, working on improving them and listening rather than just over talking. Your challenge comes through restlessness, and the best use of this week is for you to use this week aspects to learn new things. And with Mercury going direct in your house of communication, this reboots your mental clarity and verbal precision after weeks of misunderstandings for some of you, allowing you to be on point, concentrate and focus, and with Venus in Gemini making multiple aspects this week, your ability to charm and convince others is magnified. So use this social magnetism to form connections that align with your long-term vision. Cancer, your growth opportunity comes this week when you express your emotions clearly. Your challenge comes through emotional avoidance, and your strategy to allow you to overcome this week's hurdles is to practice being vulnerable. With the sun in your sign quincunx the north node, you're being asked to adjust, change your approach to emotional expression, so that you can align with your future path. And Mercury sets to Mars helps you express feelings with clarity and purpose, turning emotional insights into practical solutions. So Leo, this week your growth opportunity comes when you can lead with humility, being humble, not bragging, not showing off, allowing other people to shine too. Your challenge comes this week through ego conflicts. Your strategy is to collaborate and work with others. And with the sun entering Leo on the 16th, this brings your natural confidence and creativity to the front of your attention, empowering your self-expression. And Mars's Saturn parallel helps you to challenge this fiery energy into disciplined plans, turning inspiration into tangible, touchable achievements, that stand the test of time. So allowing you to be practical and to hit targets this week, as well as work on your long-term goals. Virgo, your growth opportunity comes this week when you trust your intuition. Your challenge comes through overthinking, over-analysis, and your strategy is to take time out to meditate, to go for walks, to chill out a bit, in healthy ways. And with Mars in Virgo forming aspects with Pluto, Neptune and Saturn this week, this gives you exceptional power to organise, analyse and implement practical solutions to complex problems. So balance this methodical energy approach, with Venus's conjunction to Jupiter, which reminds you that perfect sometimes needs to make room for joy and spontaneity and having some time out. Libra, your growth opportunity comes this week to balance relationships with personal goals. Your challenge comes through people pleasing, your strategies to set boundaries, and Venus, your ruler, is making a conjunction to Jupiter, so this brings expanded opportunities for harmonious relationships and aesthetic appreciation. Then Venus is trine to the North Node this week, shows that connections formed now can have significant implications for your life path, so choose wisely who you allow into your inner circle and what advice you follow. And also, you may meet someone and be like, I don't like this person at first, but you never know what may come from you interacting with this person. Don't ignore red flags, be cautious, but you never know where these connections may lead you at this time. Scorpio, this week your growth opportunity comes from focusing on disciplined progress. Your challenge comes through obsessive thoughts and actions and reactions. Your strategy is to reflect on your motivations. Why do you want to achieve the things that you put your energy to? And Mars, your co-ruler, is making a trine to Pluto, your ruler, so this can intensify your already strong power of transformation, making this an excellent time for deep psychological healing. And the Saturn Uranus sextile helps you restructure outdated systems in your life while maintaining enough stability to feel secure during the changes. Sagittarius, your growth opportunity comes by expanding your limits this week, but your challenge comes through overconfidence. Your strategy is to seek wisdom. Jupiter, your ruler, is making a conjunction to Venus, and this expands your limits through pleasant social connections and culture exchanges. Mercury turning direct helps clarify your vision for the future, allowing you to communicate your philosophical insights with precision and practical application. Capricorn, your growth opportunity comes this week through changing your approach, but your challenge comes through being flexible and sticking to your comfort zone. Your strategy is to be open to change this week, and this will get you through. And as Saturn, your ruler, forms a sextile with Uranus and supports innovative approaches to traditional structures routine, allowing you to lead with change without sacrificing stability. Mars, parallel Saturn, reinforces your natural endurance, persistent staying power, the ability to keep on getting up after every hurdle, helping you maintain focus on long-term goals despite distractions. But all that being said, be open to emotional nurturing, whether it's from yourself or others, to avoid burnout this week, and to be flexible. Aquarius, growth opportunities come when you express your uniqueness, but your challenge comes through rebellion, and your strategy is to work with others and work with the different needs of your personality traits, the side of you that may need to stay focused on goals, but also the side of you that needs to be in tune with your emotions. Aquarius, your growth opportunity comes this week when you express your uniqueness. Your challenge comes through rebellion. Your strategy, your best way forward is to collaborate, is to work with others. And with the North Node in your sign turning retrograde, this invites deep reflection on your personal contribution to collective evolution. Uranus, your modern ruler, receiving aspects from both Venus and Saturn, shows that balancing your revolutionary tendencies with practical consideration for relationships and resources can really help you stay in balance and keep conflict at a minimum this week. Pisces, your growth opportunity comes this week when you clarify your vision. Your challenge comes through confusion. Your strategy, your way forward with this week's energy is to write down your feelings and thoughts or memo them in your phone or tablet or whatever. And Neptune, your modern ruler, is making a parallel to Mars, which is one of the main influences this week, and this helps you take concrete, solid action on your spiritual insights and creative goals. And with with Saturn in your sign making a sextile to Uranus, this provides a grounding structure for your intuitive gifts, helping you to build something that will last from your visionary ideas at this time, you know. So now I'm just going to talk about the mantras that each of you guys, you know, the 12 zodiac signs can have this week. So Aries, your mantras can be a plan with patience and act with precision with focus, you know. I channel my fierce determination into transformative action while remaining open to spiritual guidance. Taurus, I welcome change for long-term stability. I am open to innovative changes that honour my values and bring abundant growth. Gemini, my mind is sharp and my words are wise. My clear communication creates meaningful conversations that align with my destiny. Cancer, I express my emotions with clarity and grace. I adjust my emotional responses to support my soul's evolution and future purpose. Leo, I lead with humility and inspire others. I shine my authentic light while disciplining my creative fire for lasting impact. Virgo, I trust my intuition to guide me. I balance meticulous effort with intuitive flow, finding power in the synthesis of analysis and inspiration. Libra, I balance relationships with personal goals. I attract relationships that reflect my higher self and support my soul's journey. Scorpio, I focus on progress, not perfection. I transform deep patterns with focus, intensity, while building stable routines for my renewed self. Sagittarius, I expand my limits with curiosity. I expand through joyful connections that broaden my perspective and clarify my truth. Capricorn, I innovate while staying grounded, mixing traditional approaches with practical wisdom that honours both stability and progress. Aquarius, I'm open to my uniqueness and collaboration. I reflect on how my unique gifts serve collective evolution while balancing revolution with responsibility. Pisces, I clarify my vision and trust the process. I build touchable, tangible forms for my spiritual insights, turning dreams into structured reality. So this week, some questions that you want to ask overall is: how can you integrate intuition with practicality? Where may you be resisting change or innovation newness? And how can you communicate more mindfully in your relationships? And ultimately, you know, I do these weekly scopes because yes, the stars can guide us and give us insight, right? But we have to remember that we are captain of our soul, we have free will, and it's up to us how we choose to use these energies, right? So now I'm going to talk about what content you should create this week, or what content you should listen to or watch, right? So Mars' power to Neptune wants us to be more meticulous, but be open to dream energy, right? So content that allows us and talks about how we can balance everyday hustle, the grind, work, and all the other commitments with being creative, right? How we can merge concrete facts, rational thinking with mystical insights, and how our action-driven side can improve imaginative storytelling. Because a lot of the time we just focus too much on routine and we forget to be open to the spiritual, right? So how can we do that? Talking about how we can be practical while being inspired by ethereal and psychic things, you know, and how being structured and disciplined can unlock secret creative portals. So being disciplined with our creativity, right? Saturn sextile to Uranus brings tradition and innovation together, right? So content about how we can, you know, mix once again time-tested methods, tradition with fresh ideas, and how steady foundations, routines, having structure can support, you know, creativity, futuristic, avant-garde thinking, you know, which Aquarius wants us to do. You know, maybe talking about real life examples of people who mix tradition with newness, you know, and how this gave them unexpected insight because they gave order to their spiritual expression, you know. Giving practical strategic tips how we can stay grounded while being open to, you know, psychic happenings and stuff, and Mercury sets dial to Mars, aligns our communication with our emotions, right? So, content that gives clear, heartfelt messages that have a practical edge, content that combines emotional intelligence with strategic action, that gives us tips for transforming inner ideas into organised, compelling narrative stories, allowing your words to, or listening to words that inspire you and drive real change. And Mars's power to Saturn wants us to be more disciplined with our action, but take a more soulful, emotional, psychological approach. So content that gives us tips on how we can integrate ambition with careful, reflective planning rather than being impulsive, right? Giving tips on how to check facts and critically think, how we can use structured passion to overcome creative blocks. So, taking planning time each day or every other day or at the weekend to be creative, right? And how that this can help us, if we stick to this plan, to grow. Talking about how we can persevere, keep on going through life's challenges and keep on working on our spiritual growth. Also giving tips on how we can channel raw energy, raw potential, talent into healthy and spirit-led projects. Maybe giving, if you're creating content, stories on how you tapped into the mix of drive and deeper wisdom in your own work and in your own journey, how you mix the spiritual with the practical, So, mix detailed insights with imaginative flair, listen to content or make content that encourages your audience to reflect on how structure and intuition can work together, and invite fun interactive conversations or listen to content that does this. So content that just focuses on mixing intuition with practicality can do well this week. Okay, so on the 10th of August, Mars makes a trine to Pluto. This energy lasts us right up until the 12th of August. Mars is in Virgo and Pluto is in Capricorn. This is exact at 1:28 p.m. The Sun makes a quinquage to the Moon's North Node. The Sun's in Cancer, the Moon's North Node is in Aquarius. This lasts us for the next 2 days as well, and is exact at 10:28 p.m. today. Mars' power to Neptune is exact at 10:31 p.m. today, and I already talked about this earlier because it's one of the main aspects influencing us this week, right? So the Sun's quinquage to the Moon's North Node wants us to make a choice between, our family, nurturing, or focusing on working towards meeting the needs of our future goals. We could choose both. We could just choose one or the other. Mars is trine to Pluto is, the astrological demolition crew, so wanting to let go of things, get outside of our comfort zone and becoming more strategic in the way that we move and mastering or continue to work on mastering our psychological and emotional and spiritual state. And Mars' power to Neptune is when action meets intuition. It's our sort of like spiritual hustle energy, wanting us to balance all of the needs of our rational and intuitive. So Mars is trine to Pluto and wants us to tap into our inner power, become self-empowered, be open to change, not being afraid to dig deep, going into research, especially things that can help us uncover secrets or anything that we're repressing that needs our attention so we can release it, so any things around secrets we hide from ourselves, denying our sexual kinks, denying the truth of our relationships, it's wanting us to dig deep into our desires and take focused action towards meeting our goals and our needs. Ultimately, it's giving us the key to unlock our potential and reminding us to use it wisely and empower ourselves, but we just need to watch out for being too intense and too obsessive. The Sun's quintile to the Moon's North Node pushes us and supports us to let go of what no longer serves us and be open to new, innovative ways of being and align with our soul's mission, our higher consciousness, our true needs and wants, right? But again, we just need to watch out for the discomfort that comes as we're making these changes, but use this action to align our purpose and to innovate new techniques. Combining these energies wants us to be open to our power and align with our soul's purpose, and to act with focus and make the changes that we need to do, asking ourselves how can we use our inner power and align our actions with our soul purpose. In terms of the shadow work you can do over the next few days with these energies, you can ask yourself, if you do, why do you sabotage your own success? Are you living your own dream or someone else's? Are you living up to other people's expectations? This energy is supporting us in finding our hidden strengths and becoming the main character of our lives. Virgo energy allows our primal intuitive wisdom to overcome the problems that modern living brings, and teamwork can make dreams work for some of you right now, and it wants us to commit to our true path and just be open to truths coming into our atmosphere and working with these truths. Maybe writing down 3 things that you've been scared to fully own and thinking about how you can meet them. Maybe creating a vision board with 50% of what you put in the vision is things that bring you comfort, and 50% of the vision board things that bring you adventure and newness. And it wants you to detox as well from social media and using your phones and tablets and stuff, and to go with your cut sort of like feelings, and be open to taking time out so you can just tap into what it is that can help you get to where you need to get to right now. In terms of today's mantra, you can use I transform challenges into motivation to align with my true north, my true life direction, and trust my inner compass, my inner feelings. On the 11th of August, the moon enters void of course at 7:55 a.m. Mercury goes direct at 8:30 a.m. and the moon's north node goes direct at 3:52. So this energy allows us and brings us mental clarity, adding to the theme of this week, right? It also gives us time to pause and reflect as the moon goes into void of course as well, and gives us time to prepare for our next steps, but it also adds to the miscommunication and confusion of this week. Mercury going direct allows us to proceed with our projects, especially communication ones, with confidence, finalise plans, communicate more clearly, and move past any recent misunderstandings. We cannot change the past, but we can create a better future by living in the now and working through issues of the past by learning the lessons and then making sure we don't make the same mistakes again. The moon's north node going direct encourages us and supports us to align with our highest potential, giving us a renewed clarity of purpose, but we can resist this call to change. So today, use today's energy to continue to work on yourself. Take some time out for self-reflection. Ask yourself, how can you use this time to reflect, gain clarity, and renew your commitment to your soul's purpose? Spiritually, it's like an astrological Wi-Fi reset, allowing us to relaunch projects, restart things, but don't force decisions and situations, allow things to flow. It's giving us that wake-up call that we need. On the karmic level, it wants us to serve and teach others without overpowering them, knowing that things may be the right thing for us, but it's not necessarily the right thing for everyone else. And in terms of shadow work, you can ask yourself, who am I when no one's watching, and what stops you from being that, And yeah, for some of you, you may be a very dark, aggressive person when no one's watching, and when you're in public, you may be a bit nicer and stuff. So work through the issues of what makes it anger and how you can channel that anger into productive expression. On the karmic level, it wants us to balance being confident with being humble, humility, allowing yourself to shine, but giving space for others to shine as well. When self-doubt comes up, write down the skills that you do have And if you're missing any skills, make a plan to gain skills, because a lot of the time imposter syndrome can come up when we feel we've missed steps, but sometimes we can be too hard with ourselves. So writing down your skills can be a visual, visual of your skills, so that can stop the self-doubt and the imposter syndrome flare-ups that this energy can bring. Allow yourself to write and create bravely. Be open to teaching others or learning from others today. Taking time out when need be, and serving with others when need be as well. On the 12th of August, the moon enters Pisces at 1:41 a.m. Saturn makes its sextile to Uranus at 4:32 a.m. and I talked about this at the beginning of the week, because it's one of the aspects influencing us all week, right? And Venus makes a conjunction to Jupiter at 6:29 a.m. and this lasts for the next few days, and the moon enters its disseminating moon phase at 8:39 p.m. So this energy allows us to be practical, but also make groundbreaking changes to our life as well, allowing us to start or continue to bring more stability into our life, finding the balance between tried and trusted methods that we've used before, and new exciting in process, merging the past with the future. In terms of shadow work, it wants us to explore the tension between our needs for stability and desire for freedom, reflecting on how your fear of change may be holding you back from your true potential. Venus's conjunction to Jupiter increases the themes of love, abundance and communication, allowing us to repair any problems in our relationships and improve our social connections and express ourselves more creatively, having more of an open heart and mind, and just being open to sharing happiness and inviting abundance into our life, and just being grateful for what we do have. But we just need to watch out for not overspending, overindulging, doing too much. Balance is the key with this energy. When the moon enters Pisces, it allows us to connect with our feelings, also adds compassion and depth to the week. It allows us to be more empathetic and to seek spiritual connection with ourselves and others. But negatively, we can be too sensitive and too emotionally overwhelmed. The disseminating moon helps us to share our insights and ideas with others and adds to the gratitude giving of the day, where we can just be grateful for the small things in life, like someone smiling at us or just having our favourite food. It wants us to pass on our wisdom to others, but negatively we can just be complacent with this energy, just take our knowledge or other people's knowledge, what they say, for granted, where it can be something that can really help us make improvements in our life. So altogether, today's aspects allows us to think deeply, be more compassionate, and reflect on how our beliefs about love may be limiting our relationship, especially our lifelong relationship with ourselves. Examine any tendencies you have towards overindulging, overspending, or being excessive in your words and actions, and think about the way that you may be codependent or dependent on others, and how you can develop more self-love. So the best use of this energy to integrate is to connect with nature, to ground your energy, journal, practice gratitude, try and laugh even if life is not the happiest right now. Try and see the joy in whatever's happening. So today's energies can guide you towards a more happy life if you're open to change and growth. You can ask yourself, how can you be open to emotional depth, balance tradition with innovation, newness, and celebrate abundance in your life right now? On the 13th of August, the moon enters void, of course, at 11:54, and that's all that happens. On the 14th of August, Venus makes a semi-square to Uranus at 2:55 a.m. The moon enters Aries at 4:36 a.m. and Venus makes a semi-square to Uranus at 2:54 a.m. when Venus is in Gemini and Uranus is in Taurus. So Venus semi-square Uranus, it's a minor challenging aspect, but basically it's helping us to explore new ways of relating and valuing what you have in life. So, you know, as we go down into the end of the week, a lot of aspects wanting us to have gratitude for what we have. Yes, you may not have all that you want, but, you know, give thanks for what you do have. Positively adds to the changes that we can gain in our relationships by being open to solving our problems. We can have, you know, success in, you know, creating new budgets, how we can use our finances more positively, you know, but negatively adds to the tension and restlessness of this week as well. But combinedly, today's insights add to us being able to change and being open to change if we're open to it, yeah. But on the spiritual level, it brings you know, adds to the clash between our desire for stability, you know, staying in our comfort zone, right, represented by Uranus in Taurus, and our need for freedom and newness, you know, represented by Venus in Gemini. But it gives us all we need to break free from outdated relationship and thought and other patterns that are stopping our growth, you know, and explore hidden depths within ourselves and our relationships, and seeking new sources of emotional and material nurturing, you know, and breaking free from old expectations about love and relationships, and being open to new ways of loving and being in relationships, even if you've been in a relationship for years, you know, thinking about how you can make it more fresh and be more committed and more authentic in it. Psychologically, it uncovers hidden desires and needs in our relationships, once again wanting us to release the fear of change and being open to new relationship experiences, shifting from a mindset of security in relationships to one of exploring new ways of being in them, you know, and becoming more playful in our communication, and being open to, you know, being more deeper with our partners and deeper with ourselves in general, you know. So ultimately, it wants us to challenge our routine and have more spontaneous happenings in our life and our relationships, practice open and honest communication, and explore new hobbies and interests that align with your personal growth and relationship growth. Today's mantra can be I'm open to change and innovation in love and life. We can ask ourselves how we can be open to change and innovation in our relationships and our financial life, taking this time to welcome positive change and renewal and be open to change with curiosity. On the 15th of August, Mercury makes a sextile to Mars, and I talked about this aspect earlier in the week, and Mercury's in Cancer and Mars is in Virgo. Mars makes its exact power to Saturn at 11:08 as well, and I talked about this aspect at the beginning of the week as well. So ultimately, today's energy encourages us to engage in activities that challenge our routine and encourage us to be spontaneous. Again, wants us to be open and honest in our communication, especially in our relationships. Our mantra for today can be, how can I align my thoughts with my actions to manifest my dreams? And we just have to avoid being impulsive in our relationships, especially in our decisions, and to be mindful and have patience as we change things, and as those we're in relationship may request changes and we may not want to do them right, so just be patient with ourselves. Asking yourself, how can you use your communication skills to drive your goals and actions during this time? On the 16th of August, Venus makes a trine to the Moon's North Node at 2:18. The Moon enters void of course at 6:12 a.m. The last quarter moon phase starts at 6:12. The Moon's North Node goes retrograde at 6:20 a.m. The Moon enters Taurus at 7:14 a.m. and the Sun enters Leo at 9:23. So today's energy, add to the day, you know, the Sun in Leo brings creative courage, and the Moon in Taurus grounds our emotions today. Venus is trying to the Moon North Node and gives us that push to go after relationships and opportunities that align with your soul's path. It's allowing us to trust that love and destiny are guiding us towards meaningful connections, but negatively we can have an over-reliance on fate without taking personal action, just thinking, oh, this was meant to be, without looking at how you can make it be or if it really should be, you know. Remember, astrology and these movements are just a guide. You have to check in with yourself and, you know, the goals you've written down about what you want from your life, to, you know, see if what you're doing is what you really need in your life. But ultimately, today's energies want us to be open to love, destiny and renewal, you know, being open to our higher purpose to reach our highest potential. The last quarter moon allows us to let go of what no longer serves us and prepare for the next phase of your journey, cleaning out the old to make room for the new, you know. But again, it can add to the impatient and us just being too emotionally obsessive that can get in the way of productive change and having productive discussions in our relationship. The moon's north node going retrograde allows us to revisit old patterns and old experiences, but this can lead to frustration because, you know, we may just can't stop ourselves from thinking about the past, you know. But it's wanting us to think about what we need to do in order to move forward and what patterns we need to change in our lives to move forward as well. The moon entering Taurus adds to the stability in our life as well, where we can just enjoy the simple things in life and connect with nature and just, you know, savour the beauty around us, just appreciate, you know, like I said, the simple things in life. It adds to us feeling sensual, so good for date night and making changes, but we can have a resistance to change because of this energy, because, you know, Taurus energy can make us stubborn, right, and fear change. The sun in Leo brings a fiery energy of passion, creativity and self-expression, allowing us to go after what we really want and be open to our inner artist, allowing our true self to shine. But it can make us too dramatic, too, you know, egotistical and dramatise too much, and this can bring conflict to our relationships and shut other people out. So yes, sign, but allow others to do so as well. So ultimately, today's energy support us letting go of the old, signing, being authentic and trusting in our own path and talents, you know, being more passionate, being more creative. We can attract certain people to us that can help us with this energy. We can think about what relationships we need to let go of, you know. Our mantra for today can be, I magnetize love that aligns with my highest good, you know. I will not settle. And you can ask yourself, how can you align your relationship with your soul's path, your true needs, your true desires? And as you reflect on your journey, think about how you can be more open to change, you know. So ultimately, this week is all about being open to love, reflecting on your growth and what you need to do to grow and to reach your highest potential, being open to your authentic self-expression, learning to trust yourself, have more clarity and passion about your life, you know. Looking at your routines, becoming more organised, being gentle with yourself as you do that, thinking about the ways you blame others for your icks and your, you know, worst qualities, and how you can take responsibility for your own life. And yes, other people may cause you problems, but ultimately, you know, you have the power to, you know, influence yourself if you take the time out to balance your emotional and spiritual needs and meet the needs of your emotional, spiritual and emotional sides. And yes, you know, I know it's not easy if you are in like cohesive relationships to leave and take full control. You must make a plan, get in touch with, you know, the relevant authorities that can help you and do things in a safe way, you know. Strategically plan to get out of a toxic situation if you're out of one, being gentle with yourself and making sure you are discreet in the ways, because the most dangerous time for your life can be when you leave in restrictive relationships. I know that as well. So, you know, be gentle with yourself and trust in your ability to make the moves that you need to make in your life to live your best life and to bring balance to your life. So yeah, I'm Amani, your holistic astrological life coach, and this has been the weekly scopes from the 10th to the 16th of August. Take care and see you next time.